Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Glory Glory Manchester United podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Quinn, and joining me today for the first time in about 6 months is Tom Simpson from the United Pubcast. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, very well, mate. Very well. Thanks for having us back on. Obviously, a good day for Manchester United in regards to winning football matches, which is what we want. We'll get into the performance, I'm sure. But ultimately, football does take a backseat sometimes, and obviously, a sad day for Manchester United as a whole, and which I'm sure we'll touch on as well. So I am well, but yeah, in regards to Manchester United, there is a lot of emotions going at the moment.
Yeah, all is not well with Manchester United at the moment, clearly. But to add to that, our most iconic player passed away yesterday before the game. Um, as everyone knows, he scored 249 goals in 758 appearances, which is an amazing feat for a midfielder. Um, he won three First Division titles at United, one FA Cup, runner up a few times as well. European Cup, obviously, famously in '68, the FIFA World Cup in 1966, of which he was player of the tournament. He won the Ballon d'Or that year as well. He also finished runner up in terms of the Ballon d'Or in the next 2 years. Um, Incredible career he had. He also has a stand named after him. He's part of the Golden Trinity of the famous statue outside the ground. I mean, the word legend is kind of overused in football, but I think it's an understatement when it comes to Sir Bobby. So, what's your thoughts on Sir Bobby's passing then, Tom?
The initial thoughts of him passing, it's just sad. It's amazing this connection we have with our Manchester United legends in regards to we don't know them as people, but that they do touch your lives in many different ways. And the ultimate feeling is just sadness, especially obviously his health was deteriorating in recent years. Hopefully, all that sort of pain has gone away, and him and his family can be in peace now. But yeah, the overriding emotion is sadness. But in terms of his legacy as a Manchester United player and legend. You summed up all those achievements there, and you're right in regards to this all debate we always have around legend status. What's a hero? What's a legend? Who's our greatest legend? Sort of thing. And we always have great debates about that, but really there is no debate. If you're picking one, it's not even a discussion because when you do look at it, what Manchester United is, what Manchester United means to the fans, if you actually look at Sir Bobby Charlton's story and you sort of rattle off those achievements, but just the story itself in terms of an academy product, that's what Manchester United is built on. These academy products. So he's one of those. So he's already sort of ticked that box. He then breaks into the first team. He's then performing. A huge part of the story, unfortunately. It's a very sad part of the story, but it is the story in regards to the Munich air disaster. He's a survivor of that crash, and okay, well, we can see him as a survivor, but the huge part of that is regards to seeing his teammates and his friends die, like literally in front of him, how he deals with that. Then 10 years later, he goes on to captain Manchester United to win the European Cup, leading that new team with Sir Matt Busby. Obviously, you throw in the England credentials in there as well in terms of the Ballon d'Or, the World Cup, everything, and then to go on and do all that and then become Manchester United's record appearance holder, record goal scorer, as you say, from midfield. Look, there are many great legends at Manchester United. That story will never be touched, has never been touched, and it's not even a discussion. In regards to, I put a post up a few hours ago in regards to a huge sort of theme amongst sport at the moment is the GOAT discussion. Who's the greatest of all time across all sports? It's this new phenomenon. Who's the GOAT? At Manchester United, it's not a discussion. It is simply him. Players, managers, however you want to describe it, he's in a league of his own and will forever be. And yeah, it just Manchester United is an emotional roller coaster. But Sir Bobby Charlton's story is Manchester United. Obviously nicknamed Mr. Manchester United. So a sad day. But look, if there was one person smiling when Diogo Dalot hit the ball into the top corner, it would have been Sir Bobby Charlton. We're going to dissect the performance, I'm sure. But Sir Bobby Charlton after the game probably would have said, don't worry about the performance. It's one of those days we got 3 points. He probably would have seen the bright side of it. So if he's smiling, I'm happy.
Yeah, I think it was Pele who said that Bobby could shoot in Manchester and score in Rio de Janeiro.
Mm.
Such was the quality of his shooting with both his right foot and his left foot. I'm sure, you're like me, you've watched many of the goals that's available on YouTube. Like, I don't think both of us were around at the time. It's
Mm.
fair to say, but we've all watched the footage and we can make a judgment on just how good he was. Um, him together with George Best and Dennis Law. What I've been told is they put 10,000 on the gate every week. In
Mm,
terms of crowd, that's how good they were. You know, everybody standing up whenever they had the ball, and they were all Ballon d'Or winners and all in the same team. You know, even now that's very rare. Um,
mm,
so it's probably the most iconic era in the club's history. It was the year that made the club what it is. Like you said, they suffered the Munich air disaster in 1958. Obviously that we lost a lot of players in that, and some players, including Bobby, survived. The manager survived, and then they went on to win the league a few times, and then win the European Cup 10 years later after the crash, which was huge and emotional at the time, because it was everybody anticipated that the 1958 team would win the European Cup, and it wasn't to
mm.
be. And for the club then to win it exactly 10 years later was a massive and emotional moment in the club's history, which he was part of from from start to finish. So, yeah, definitely the most iconic player in the club's history. Yeah, and an absolute gentleman as well, has to be said. You know, very, very humble guy. Never wanted to be a celebrity or anything like that. You know, yeah, a thoroughly decent man as well off the pitch, wasn't he?
Yeah, I was listening to Gary Neville's thoughts earlier, and I think he was down at the Arsenal Chelsea match. He was talking about it, and just in regards to again, what is Manchester United? So we get so hung up on transfers and results and performances and formations and everything. Manchester United is bigger than that. It's how you conduct yourself, and he represented Manchester United obviously brilliantly on the pitch, but just as importantly off the pitch, in regards to when he was playing, but also in an ambassadorial role. He summed up Manchester United and its class to a T. And yeah, it is what it is. You go back to that era, the late 50s after the crash, and then the early 60s. We can sit here and rightfully say no one's bigger than the club. Manchester United is bigger than any individual. Where would we be without Sir Bobby Charlton? Now you can obviously throw some Matt Busby in there as well, and football has a funny way of this butterfly effect in terms of little sort of incidents that are having a big knock-on effect. But I don't know what Manchester United would be today if it wasn't for the contribution of Sir Bobby Charlton. It's a different club. It's a different story. It might be, I don't think it would be a better story, but it's definitely going to be maybe a worse story, and that is down to Sir Bobby Charlton's one his ability as a footballer, but also the traits he is as a man.
There's been lots of photos obviously being shared online in the last 24 hours of Sir Bobby. I noticed one, and I've seen this before, but I've never really thought about it. It showed him on the training ground with in his tracksuit with Sir Alex Ferguson. Um, I know he's been a director for a long time at the club, but was he actually a coach at one stage in this
He
the
went to
Fergie
he
era?
went to manage Preston North End. That didn't work. It didn't work for him at the time. I forget exactly the years there. In his time with Sir Alex Ferguson, he was the club director at the time. I think he wasn't sort of listed as a coach, but he is in and around training. He always sort of went in one or two of the drills. He always travelled with the team away in Europe. I still remember there's a great footage. It'll be very easy to find on YouTube. Just type in Sir Bobby Charlton training in Barcelona in the 1999 season in the group stage when we went to Barcelona. There's a great sort of 10-minute package of the players are training at the new camp the night before the game, the night before that 3-3 draw, playing a sort of 11v11 game, and Sir Bobby Charlton's in the midfield. And he must be over 50 years old at the time. And he's in there with David Beckham, Roy Keane, Dwight York, etc. And in terms of the highlights package, it looks like he's pulling the strings. So I think I'm not sure what his sort of coaching role would have been with Sir Alex, but I know he was in and around the training ground. But I wouldn't say as a coach, but I'd just say as a bit of a presence. And what better presence he would have had on those young players coming through that class of '92. They always speak extremely high of him. And I think that is special in terms of we've had such a negative discussion around sort of club legends in previous seasons in regards to, okay, they shouldn't come back or jobs for the boys sort of thing. I do think you've done right. It is an important part of Manchester United. Whether they're the greatest coach or they're the greatest player, I think it is important to have someone who gets it. We use that term a lot, to be in and around the place. I think it is an important part of what the club is.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I do think I've seen that footage before of training at the new camp. Yeah, and he certainly didn't look out of place at his age.
Yeah.
You know, I suppose you never really lose your ability; you just kind of lose your fitness. But I'm even watching, not to get off topic, Paul Scholes in some of those charity matches.
No,
He was by far the best player on the pitch.
yeah.
Um,
Well, what
yes,
we could do with Skulls now, just sitting in
yeah,
midfield and playing a few passes, I'd happily take it. If you even if you can't get around the pitch, that's the price I'll pay.
yeah. I mean, he's been brought back out of retirement before, but
Mm,
maybe at this age, it might be a bit much to play in the Premier League at 50 years old.
mm,
Um, but yeah, such an amazing man was Sir Bobby Charlton, and sad to see him leave the stage yesterday. But uh, we weren't. I know it came as a surprise, on the day of a match, but it wasn't. It wasn't a massive shock either, because we knew that
mm,
he'd been diagnosed with dementia in 2020, and he was 86 years old. So, but unfortunately for United, it just seems to be a death all the time now. And it was only a couple of weeks ago that Lady Kathy Ferguson passed away.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it makes you think that Dennis Law is the only member of the Holy Trinity still alive, and with Alex Ferguson losing his wife, then you're thinking, how
Mm.
long has he got left as well? I mean, that would be
That's
another.
the same thing. Look at and different generations will react different. And look how sad we all are with Sir Bobby Charlton. But and extremely sad. I was on the verge of tears. I think, and touch wood, this doesn't happen for another 10 or 15 years. But look, life is life, and Sir Alex Ferguson's not getting any younger. The day he unfortunately does pass away, could you imagine how we're going to react in regards to what a sort of pivotal role he played in our lives? And that's going to be extremely sad. But that's life, and that's Manchester United. It is what it is, and it goes to show you how sort of emotionally invested we are in these people, and how much we care. And that's why we're here. Two guys on the other side of the world talking about Manchester United is it's a special club.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that Sir Matt Busby, Sir Bobby Charlton, and Sir Alex are probably the three most important figures in
Yeah.
Manchester United's history. Yeah, without a doubt. So we'll get on to the game now. Another very poor performance from United, and you have to put it into context that it was against one of the worst teams in Premier League history, who've only 1 point so far this season. Now, we've witnessed Newcastle batter them 8-0, although on the flip side of that, Man City did struggle to a 2-1 win at Bramall Lane themselves.
Mm.
I predicted before the game that, you know, United will probably will not. They don't have the capability at the moment to score 4 and 5 goals in a game. It was never on the cards. I thought, if we're going to win this, it'll be a scrappy 2-1 or 1-0, and that's exactly what happened. Um, but it makes me very jealous watching Newcastle thump teams 4-0, 5-0, beat PSG 4-1, beat Sheffield United 8-0, and the playing just great football, and we're just not capable of producing those performances at the moment. I don't know why, because if you look at United's best 11 and Newcastle's best 11, it's without doubt United have the best team on paper. So, what is the explanation for United being so poor at the moment?
Yeah, I think if we had an explanation, or if Eric Ten Hag had an explanation, would fix it, and then would suddenly be playing great football, and all would be well in the world. But you mentioned paper, and it's one of my sort of go-to sayings: football's not played on paper. It is played on grass. It's a funny old game in terms of sort of what we think will happen and what we can sort of predict. But it's a funny old game, and look, we can see until the cows come home in regards to, okay, this is the problem. If we fix that, this will sort of improve, and if that improves, this will improve, and then we'll fix this issue. We've been having this debate forever, and this performance was nothing to do with the Glazers, but I think ultimately we're not going to get into a discussion of that. Hopefully, in regards to it, we've done that to death, but I think until that changes, we're always going to be in a situation and a cycle where it's just going to be this sort of constant rotation. It'll improve for a little bit, then it'll die off, and then it's a never-ending cycle until sort of proper leadership arrives at Old Trafford. You look at leadership in terms of what the discussion we we're just having in regards to those names: Sir Matt Busby, Sir Bobby Charlton, Sir Alex Ferguson. Clear leadership, and that's not to say Eric Ten Hag. He's obviously got a circus above him, which is making his job extremely difficult. But I think that is the explanation in regards to the last decade or the last 15 years of why it's not working. In regards to the specifics of this season and the football on the pitch, Look, there's many issues, but I could say to you, I think at the moment you do look at a midfield balance. I think that's where a lot of us sit in regards to the midfield. Doesn't really feel balanced in terms of the defenders actually probably defending okay. Look, if the strikers get a chance here, they could probably score a goal, but we're not really dominating games. But I'll try to you. Okay, who would be your midfield trio to sort of provide a better balanced midfield? Then I say, okay, you put that out on the pitch. Do you expect a better performance and a better midfield performance? Probably not. You could very well see yourself in 90 minutes saying, "Well, no, that didn't work. We'll try something different." So the explanation, Kyle, I've no idea. I've got my theories, but I know my theories, if I put into practice, would be proven wrong, and then I'd be having another discussion. So I've no idea why it's not working. I put it down to, and again, it's not a reason and it's not an excuse, and maybe it's the optimist in me. I just have a feel we're just playing bad at the moment. Maybe there'll come a time in the season where we don't play bad. I saw a touch from Bruno Fernandes today where it was coming down and he went to touch with the outside of his foot, hit the inside of his studs and went out for throw-in. I just think that's a bad touch. It's nothing to do with tactics or anything. It's just not working. So the players have to do better. There's no doubt about that. I hope, and I also do have a bit of a feeling as well that we're just playing bad. Fingers crossed we can turn around, but I'll throw it to you in regards to what the issues are.
Well, just before I answer that, I was going to ask you, United haven't played well in the Premier League at all this season. We've obviously had 4 defeats already, and some of the 5 wins have been United have been very, very lucky to get those wins, especially against Wolves.
I think
Um,
two of our better performances were probably in the 2 losses in Tottenham and Arsenal.
yeah, the first half against Tottenham and
Yeah, definitely not 90 minutes of performances, but two losses. You think, well, hang on, they could have actually been wins, and some of the wins could have been losses.
yeah, and I mean, on 90 minutes at the Emirates, we were 2-1 up for just
Yeah.
about a minute or two until VAR intervened. So, I mean, that would have been like if we had come away with a 2-1 win at the Emirates, that would have been seen as a fantastic away performance.
Yeah.
But obviously it didn't work out. But yeah, it is strange that the 2 of the losses were probably the more of the better performances. But yeah, it has been pretty wretched from United this season. And yeah, before I answer your question, I was going to ask you, um, do you see a situation where United start to play better football and start to get results consistently this season, or are you starting to see parallels with the when Mourinho got the sack and when Solskjaer got the sack? Are you seeing a dressing room that's not playing for the manager? Or what's your thoughts on that?
I think in the sort of heat of frustration, like if we were to lose a game, I could definitely draw parallels with the end of the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the end of the Jose reign. I could definitely easily draw those. You look at the Jadon Sancho situation, the Ronaldo situation, the treatment of David De Gea. I could easily draw a situation like that. I don't believe that to be the case. I do think the majority of the dressing room is behind Eric Ten Hag, and I do think Eric Ten Hag is doing a good job overall, given the challenges he has at his hands. But do I see it turning around? Look, I'm an optimist. I do now that there's turnaround to the level we want it to be. We want to be winning the Champions League and the Premier League. Do I think it's going to turn around to that extent? Probably not. But I do look. It's a long season. It feels we have this discussion every year in regards to, oh my god, the top 4's gone. Two weeks ago we were saying top 4's gone. Suddenly we're 6 points off the top of the table. Like I just think we jump to these conclusions in regards to, oh my god, the season's over. I don't think that to be the case. We'll improve. Now we might have worse performances. We might go and get sort of slapped 5-0 by someone. But I think that performances will improve and results will improve over time. That's not to say that there won't be more sort of bad periods throughout the season, but it is a long season. I just think we're playing bad at the moment, and that's not a sort of excuse, or that's not a reason to say sort of to accept it. Far from it, they do need to perform better. But you mentioned the players and the quality. There is quality there. We love that might be a bit of a stretch. We pretty much love this group of players for large chunks of last season. In regards to obviously the start of the season very well, or after the sort of disastrous start, well, we sort of bounced back and we're proud of the team. They ended up winning a trophy as well, qualified for the Champions League. We thought, okay, there's something there. Those players are still there. That manager's still there. So there is something there I can get behind. They need to find it though. Because the longer it goes, they'll start to lose a bit of a grip on it, and that's when it does become a concern and starts to spiral into such a situation, as you mentioned, the Mourinho and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer reigns.
Yeah, there's so many injuries, and then there's so many players out of form, and then obviously the manager has had issues with certain players as well. One of them who's just probably never going to be involved again while Ten Hag's at the club. Um, yeah, it's you will really want to see United turn this around, but I'm just expecting really, really flat performances every week now. I am concerned that we've got Manchester City coming up next, and it could be another one of those pick a score games. Where Man City could score 4 or 5 at Old Trafford. Really wouldn't surprise me if that's the way it turned out. Now I hope it doesn't turn out that way. I hope we can get a result in that game. But I know Man City have not looked as perfect as they were last season, but United are so far off their best at the moment. I wouldn't back United if I was a betting man. I wouldn't put any money on
Uh,
United to get any
how much
points in
would you
that
put
game.
the discussion I said in and around midfield balance and sort of looking for reasons is why we're not playing great football? And look, we played with a left back at the start of the season and weren't playing great football. So I'm not saying it's going to fix everything, but I do really feel in regards to the balance of play, not having a left back is having a knock on effect. It is hurting midfield. It is hurting Marcus Rashford. And again, not to say Luke Shaw Regulon comes in and we're suddenly the best team in the league. Far from it. We had the left backs at the start of the season, but I do think at the moment the lack of a left back is hurting us maybe more than we give credit for.
Yeah, it's massive. I was hugely disappointed yesterday when the team dropped and Lindelof was still at left back because I
Mm.
thought Region was back in training and he was going to play in this game. So
I think given the situation, and look, I've got no knowledge of the situation. You would think in regards to if he's the first left back, just don't rush him back. Maybe make sure he doesn't get injured. Maybe hold him back a week or two just to make sure. That's my understanding. But yeah, I agree with you. I was expecting him to be fit and available.
yeah, it really hurts the balance of the team, and Lindelof is not having a good season by any
Mm.
stretch of the imagination, no matter what position he's played in. Um, I thought I know Dallo scored a fantastic goal, although some people might say the keeper should have saved it. But he was really poor as well.
Yeah,
Again,
I liked it. I thought he was struggling. I was thinking, oh my god, he's having a tough time. He looked like he had maybe a few too many sort of barbecues over in Portugal during the international break or something. But he fixed it all well with a great shot, which proved me wrong. But I do agree on the performance. I thought he had a tough night.
he scored a goal like that in pre-season, didn't he? So I suppose it's not too much of a
He picks up
surprise.
that spot a lot, whether it be on the left back or right back. It has obviously in this new inverted role for fullbacks all around the world play, and obviously it does happen under Eric Ten Hag. He picks up that spot on the edge of the box quite often. And look, we can discuss his defensive capabilities compared to Wan-Bissaka. That's definitely a discussion. But in regards to technique, he's a good footballer, and give him a chance, he can hit it.
Yeah, he would need to do that every game to justify being in the team. Because as soon as Wan Bissaka is fit again, then he starts, in my opinion, every day of the week. Yeah, and it's not ideal that we're playing Leicester centre back pairing from 5 years ago at the moment as well.
In saying that, and look, I agree 100%. They're performing well enough. I'm happy enough with that. But now that's not to say when Lissandro Martinez and Rafael Varane are fit and available, okay, throw them in. Manchester United shouldn't be starting games with Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire. But I think, given what they are, I think they're performing. They're doing their job.
But if we're playing against Burnley and Brentford and Sheffield United, then they can come into the team
Yeah,
and it won't prevent us from getting a result. But I would be very, very worried
yeah,
if they were starting against Manchester City or
yeah.
Liverpool. If I'm
Oh
being
no, yeah,
brutally honest.
100%. But that's that's the fixtureless problem. That's not the problem of Harry Maguire and Johnny. Look, I completely agree. And no, that's a discussion in and around recruitment and who should have come in, who should have left, and that's another discussion. But in regards to, I'm not sure we'll dissect some performances a little bit later as well. And again, and not they didn't put Franco Baresi 10 out of 10 performances in, but in considering especially where our fear levels were with both of them, I thought solid enough. But then you need that solid enough. Okay, you had your week. Okay, Rafael Varane come back in and provide what we need.
Yeah, I think we'll need Varane next weekend. Imagine that he's held him back for a wee bit, not taking any risks with
Mm.
him. I imagine he'll maybe get maybe 60 minutes against Copenhagen, and then he'll be ready to start against Man City, all being well. Um, yeah, you mentioned the midfield balance. Now, Casemiro's been well off it this season. It makes you start to think: is this him declining now? He came to the club at 30 years old on a 5-year contract, and now only 1 year in, he's starting to look like he's losing his powers. Unfortunately, now Amrabat took his place yesterday with with Casemiro being injured. He's not started off very well either. I mean, the only good game he's had is the Crystal Palace League Cup match. I know he's played left back in a lot of the games, but even in midfield, he's looked well off it. So McTominay, where would we be without McTominay in the last couple of games? It'd be a hell of a lot worse, wouldn't it? He's finally brought his Scotland form to
Mm.
United. We were saying that for most of the 2023. When we're watching the internationals, we're saying, where is this Scott McTominay at United? Getting into the box and scoring all these goals. Getting goals from pullbacks and getting goals when there's pinball in the area. Once again, he done that. There was a lot of pinball last night in the penalty box, and then McTominay just brings it down and shoots into the corner. He's very very good at that. He's only he's got some of the attributes that you'd expect from a striker actually.
Mm.
Not all of them, obviously. But yeah, he's very, very dangerous in the penalty area, isn't he?
It's where he needs to play. I think all that. Look, no bigger fan of Scott McTominay than myself, but look, I'm the last person who still he shouldn't be playing in number six or in that central midfield. We need him in the box now. How do you get that midfielder in the box? Is he the number 10? Well, he's not as good as Bruno Fernandes. How do you sort of fit that system? But in terms of that's what his job should be. Okay, last 10 minutes against Brentford, need something. Okay, throw him in. Okay, you got Casemiro out and you got Mason Mount coming back from fitness. Okay, you away at Sheffield United on a Saturday night. Okay, Scott McTominay come in, do a job for 60 minutes. Okay, you got Manchester City next. Okay, McTominay come out, Casemiro come back in. That should be the role. However, what we've demanded of Scott McTominay over the last 5 years is play those games, Sheffield United and Brentford, and then start away at the Etihad. That shouldn't be the role. I think that's been unfairly placed on Scott McTominay. So I think Eric Ten Hag is using him well as a squad player this season. And yeah, where would we be without him? I think Casemiro and Scott McTominay, in terms of maybe the performances this season, haven't been there. There are two top scorers, so it's a funny old game, and important goals as well for Scott McTominay. Where would we be without these 6 points against Brentford and Sheffield United? I would hate to think. And yeah, look, I don't have to find a spot for him in the starting 11, but in the squad, I'll find a spot for him in the squad, no doubt.
Yeah, I think he deserves to get more minutes than what he was getting under Ten Hag until the 86th minute against Brentford. And I suppose Ten Hag probably felt his hand was forced and had to start him in the next game.
I
Although,
think just from a personal level, I don't want to say he saved his job against Brentford, but you could make a case that he saved. I don't think he saved his job. But you can make a case that he kind of did. From a personal level, Eric Ten Hag would have just you have to start. Thank you, mate.
yeah, I mean, I don't. United are very slow to make decisions and don't like to sack managers, rightly or wrongly. So I don't think that he would, if we'd have lost at
Oh
home
yeah,
to
no.
Brentford, I don't think he would have been sacked, but he would have been under severe pressure. Could you imagine the newspaper headlines and the Sky
Uh,
Sports headlines for 2 weeks had we had lost that game?
I think they were
Um,
starting to be written when McTominay was coming on in injury time. I think they were ready to be published, and thank God they had to delete them.
yeah, 100%. Now, against Manchester City, what I would do is play Amrabat alongside Casemiro. I think we absolutely have to do that. We need to absolutely pack the midfield. If you remember last season when we got the results, I think we dropped a forward, I think it was Anthony, and played Fred in the midfield and made us more compact. And we ended up winning the game 2-1 at home.
Yeah.
Whereas in the away game, I think he started McTominay and Ericsson at the base of the midfield, and they just got totally overran, and we were
Mm.
absolutely destroyed in that game. So we need to, I think, make the midfield as solid as possible and make it hard to play through, especially if we're not playing our first choice back four. But Amrabat and Casemiro are both not playing well, but we haven't seen much of them together. And hopefully in the bigger games, now they can form a solid partnership. Bruno has not been playing very well this season. You mentioned that miscontrol that went out of play. That was woeful. Um,
Mm.
if you take out his wonderful strike against Burnley, he's been pretty awful for quite a long time now. Yeah, it's not been a great start to the season by him either, and he's your captain, he's your talisman. You expect a lot more from him. I know he hit the crossbar with a free kick yesterday, and it's the closest he come to scoring from a free kick in a very long time. But
Mm.
whether it hits the top of the stand or the crossbar, it doesn't matter. If it doesn't go in, it's the same result. Yeah, are you concerned by Bruno's form yourself?
Not yet, but look, there's no doubt he's not in good form. He definitely needs to improve it. Definitely not sort of concerned, but if it carries on for another 6 weeks, yeah, there'll definitely be concerns and questions. But he has a fair bit of credit in the bank for me in regards to what he has done. And now people can have their own idea of him as a player and what he brings, and the eye test compared to stats, and they're all sort of valid discussions. But yeah, he needs to improve. There's no doubt about that. But for me, he still does offer the team a lot now in terms of he's very on the eye, a frustrating player when things don't go well in terms of bad passes that go too far or pointless shots sort of thing. He is very frustrating on the eye there, but I do think he makes things happen. Um, and football at the end of the day isn't about playing good football. It's about making things happen and sort of getting results. And if there's one player in our team who is very likely to help get a result, it is Bruno Fernandes. Maybe not so much this season, and maybe adds weight to a discussion in regards to his form. But not concerned yet, but yeah, it is a cutthroat business, and maybe one or two other bad performances and bad defeats, and we'll be maybe having a discussion over Bruno.
Yeah, you could certainly make the argument that Bruno and Rashford could be taken out of the team,
Yeah,
even if it was just for one game, because nobody should be guaranteed their place in the team. Um, Rashford himself has had a very poor season. Now we know that he got 30 goals last season. He's only got one so far this season, was in the defeat to Arsenal, at the start of September. There'd be lots of calls from the fans for Garnacho to replace Rashford in the team. I know Garnacho always tends to have an impact from the bench. He did so again yesterday to an extent, but his performances when he starts are very mixed, and I suppose that's the issue. Um, what about against Copenhagen? Would you consider maybe giving Garnacho a go from the start and taking Rashford out of the firing line?
at full time in every game, that's always my answer. I say, okay, that's enough of Rashford, throw Alejandro Garnacho in. Then I see Garnacho come in, and I think he's not quite the same from the start. Maybe he's better off the bench, and so it proves me wrong. So my feeling at the moment is yes, Garnacho should come in. Rashford should have 60 minutes on the bench before he comes on for the last 20. But then if I do see Garnacho, I won't be shocked if I'm sitting here at full time against Copenhagen saying Garnacho didn't really take his chance. He's a better impact player. So I'm not sure where I sit on that at the moment. Look, you're completely right in regards to no player should have a right to play for Man United in terms of the performances should dictate that. Marcus Rashford, and we like this or not, it's the reality of the situation, and it is life. A big business that is Manchester United. He's hard to drop. I know Eric Ten Hag has dropped him for being late. We remember that game against Wolves, but in terms of Marcus Rashford's status and his contract, yeah, it's a big call. Now I know in recent weeks he's hooked Casemiro at half time. He has hooked Rashford, and look, he's got rid of Cristiano Ronaldo. Eric Ten Hag will make brave decisions, but consistently leaving Marcus Rashford out, it's just hard. Especially when no matter what he's playing like, it wouldn't shock you if Marcus Rashford goes and scores a winner. Like he does have that, and as a manager, I assume that is a huge sort of trait to have in your back pocket. No matter you're helpless on the sideline, you can say go stand here, make this run, make that pass. Ultimately, you're helpless. Oh, I've been a manager, I've been a player. You're at the disposal of the players. The players have to do the right things, and if you're powerless as a manager and you're watching this game go by, no matter how bad Marcus Rashford is playing, in an instant he might be able to go past a player and put in the top corner. And that is a sort of a gamble a lot of people would be really willing to take as a manager. So Rashford's in a tricky spot. In regards to his performances, needs to improve. I'm happy to see him dropped. I'm happy to see someone come in and change things up on the left. But ultimately, I think a huge discussion now. Plestri plays on the right, Rashford plays on the left. But the two wide players, let's say Plestri and Rashford, throw Plestri over there. Would you get better football? Yeah. Can you see a situation where Plestri scores a goal, like in a Manchester derby? I like Plestri. That's not happening, in my opinion. I really like him. I don't think that's going to happen. Marcus Rashford, yeah, I could see him scoring a winner in a derby. He's done it before multiple times. So I just think, as the manager, what do you want? Do you want the better player potentially in Plestri and play better football? Do you back him to really make a difference? No, you'd like the manager to have faith, and maybe that is the case. I'm not sure I would. But then I'm saying to drop Marcus Rashford. But here I am on the other hand saying he needs to play because he can score a goal.
Um, yeah, Palestri is probably more likely to provide an assist than score a goal.
Yeah,
But Rashford, I think he doesn't like playing on the right either.
yeah,
I think you can see it in his body language. When he's moved over there, that he's not very happy about it. Everybody United, every winger we have in the last 5 years, all of them seem to want to play on the left hand side.
yeah,
We signed Sancho's specifically to play on the right, but if the club had done their homework, they would have seen that he played the majority of his games on the left for Dortmund. It just baffles me. Um, yeah, I would like to see a bit more of Alejandro Garnacho, rather than just getting the last kind of 30 minutes of each game. I'd like to see him get a start. I mean, I expected more rotation with given that we're playing, twice a week now.
yeah,
But from a psychological point of view as well, if Rashford thinks that he's guaranteed his place in the team, he could drop off, 5%. And you could argue that's what we're seeing because no, no, straight away, see when Garnacho comes on, you can notice the difference right away in terms of his work off the ball, which Rashford doesn't do very much
yeah.
of these days. Um, yeah, it's a difficult one.
Oh, look,
I
I'd lose no sleep if Camacho comes in and starts. I'd be very happy to see it. I just wouldn't be shocked after 90 minutes in the Champions League if it doesn't work. And I could see it working. So as I said, I'd like to see him start. Yeah, I just wouldn't be shocked if it's not a great
yeah,
performance.
if you played Garnacho against the likes of Copenhagen, Um, I don't think Rashford could be offended by that. What would offend Rashford is if he was dropped for a Manchester derby. So I think Copenhagen prevents an opportunity to give Garnacho a chance on the left hand side. And like you say, you could move Rashford to the right if you want to, or you could just bring him on for the last 30 minutes. But both of them were guilty of missing chances yesterday. Rashford with that left-footed side footer across goal and went wide of the post. And then Garnacho one-on-one with the keeper after being played in by Martial, and you're thinking he's going to bury this like he did at Arsenal, and somehow he put it wide as well. I was so frustrated by that because when you're playing a team that's bottom of the league, you want to score as many goals as
Yeah.
possible, and we just got over the line and nothing more yesterday. And obviously, you want to put the game to bed as well because when you're only 2-1 up, and every time Sheffield United then got into our half towards the end of the game, you're starting to think, oh, we're going to do that. We're going to throw this away here. We're going to concede a really sloppy goal, and draw the game. You want to obviously get 3-1 or 4-1 up and put the game to bed, but um, that's just the way things are at the moment. Our forwards are not scoring many goals. I mean, all Hoyland's 3 goals have come in the Champions League. Rashford has 1 league goal. I think Garnacho's only scored in the League Cup, because of the Arsenal goal being disallowed. And like you said earlier, our top scorers are Casemiro and McTominay. It's just um, this was a problem last season, not scoring enough goals, and it hasn't changed. Um, it's a huge issue, isn't it?
It's the issue. Goals win games, and we need games to go up the ladder. We need to win those games to achieve what we want to achieve. Football is a very simple game. Um, you need to score goals, no matter if you keep them out or not. But I just feel sorry for Hoyland because I like Hoyland. I think he's done well. But ultimately, if you just look on paper, and here we have this discussion around paper / the reality of what happens on the pitch. But on paper, the situation we've put Hoyland in, and I think Eric Ten Hag was forced to do it in regards to need to bring someone in. But in terms of what we wanted to achieve this season in regards to being successful, as good as he is, as good as he can be, you just can't do it with a 20-year-old up front having his debut season in the Premier League. Now, it could happen. He could have hit the ground running and scored hat-tricks galore. It could have happened. But you say, a betting man, it's just not going to happen. And that's not to be critical of him. I think he's been very good for the situation, but very good for his situation and what Manchester United need is 2 different discussions. I'm sure he'll develop into a very good player and hopefully a Manchester United great. But in regards to achieving what we want to achieve this season, we shouldn't be in a position where we've got a kid up front we're relying on goals for.
I think the stats are not a fair reflection on how good his performances have been.
Yeah, I think it's been good. Yeah,
I think he played well again yesterday. Unlucky not to score. It was a great right-handed save by the goalkeeper. Um, I know that he had that effort from close range. The ball kind of fell to him, and then he was sliding. I think he was losing his footing, and he tried to dig the ball towards the corner, but the keeper got a strong right hand to it to tip it around the post. It would have been great if that went in, because we all want to see him get his first Premier League goal,
Mm.
to get that, that monkey off his back, and st- start scoring goals in the league. And I think it will come, because
Well,
we.
yeah, he's a young player. It'll change. I think he's improving. I think he's playing well. Just in regards to our demand at the moment, um, shouldn't be on him.
Yeah, definitely not. The ideal scenario would be for him, and at least in his first season at United, would be to play second fiddle to a more senior striker, more
Yeah,
established striker. Um, but obviously he's come in and he's our first choice striker, because Anthony Martial isn't capable of being a first choice striker anymore.
mm.
Um, but yeah, his performance in against Galatasaray in the Champions League, for me, that's a sign of things to come. That's the player that we're going to get in the next 5 to 10 years, on a regular basis. Um, Yeah, and we've seen. Look, I know it was against San Marino. That's obviously, they're not barely in a professional team, but um, that goal he scored in that game was terrific as well.
Yeah.
Wonderful left-footed finish into the top corner. We'll see more goals like that. We'll see more goals from cutbacks, and we'll see him score headers, like he did against Galatasaray. So, I've us obviously we want him to score as soon as possible right now, and in most games, but we have to be patient with him. And um, this he's not Wout Weghorst. He's not a mediocre striker who didn't make it at Burnley, come to United at 30 years old, struggling. This is a young lad with bags of ability, who in time will add goals to his game. I don't think he's going to be like Erling Haaland, breaking records every season with his goals. I think he's going to be more of a Wayne Rooney type goal scorer, where he's going to get 20 to 25 goals when he's in his prime every season. But he's going to bring so much more than that, to the team as well. As you can see, his link up play is terrific. His hold up play. Um, and yeah, I think he's going to be a great player for United in the future. That's why when I went to Old Trafford, when United were playing Brighton, unfortunately, it was chose a very bad game there. But I got a home shirt. I got Hoyland on the back, because he's the one I believe is going to have the brightest future at the club, in terms of but in terms of the new players anyway. I know Bruno has obviously been a brilliant player for us overall. But I've already had a shirt with Bruno on the back, so I had to choose somebody else. So coming back to the game, I think two players that you definitely, for their performances, you could definitely blame the manager for, because these are signings that are definitely his, because they were at Ajax with the manager and he brought them to the club. Andrew Onana with another very unorthodox save yesterday. I know he saved it, he kept the ball out, but don't know what the hell he was doing. I know the ball kind of was swerving a bit, but it was a very unorthodox
Mm.
save, and we obviously have seen him make a lot of mistakes lately. And I've said this a few times. He looks like a midfielder who's playing as an emergency goalkeeper at times. I just don't know what to make of him. We've seen between Schmeichel and Van der Sar, we've seen a lot of goalkeepers that probably shouldn't be there, and I'm worried that he's going to be a very expensive flop as well. But we have to, like I said in the last show, we have to give him time. It's only October in his first season, but it's definitely he's definitely got off to the worst possible start for a Man United goalkeeper. I'm not convinced of him at all. I think even the part of his game that was being talked up a lot, before he arrived, was his passing ability. I don't think a lot of his passing has not resulted in anything good. I mean,
Mm.
even yesterday, he's playing long balls out to the wingers, and it's not he's not finding the target. Um, his short passing obviously has not been perfect. Against Galatasaray being the prime example of that. So we haven't seen really the fruits of that either, and I don't think he's a particularly brilliant shot stopper. So I think Ten Hag may have made the wrong choice, but I'm willing to reserve judgment for a few months at least. Anthony as well. He hasn't. He scored one Premier League goal in the last 12 months, which is alarming. Now we can no longer say this is his first season. You have to give him time to bed in. Um, he's struggling really badly. And as he's quite often labelled a one-trick pony. And once again, yesterday he did it in the first half, where the shot was not on at all. He should have been picking out a teammate, and he tries to curl one into the far corner, and it was a team effort. And I don't really remember much else that he done in the game. But he's going to start every single game when he's available because he's the manager's £85 million signing, and he has to make that work. For me, he doesn't get into the strongest 11, but the manager is going to pick him, which is a concern. So definitely, we can blame the injuries and blame the marquee players for not performing. You can blame the players themselves for that, but in terms of the signings that are definitely Ten Hag signings that are not playing well, you've got to look at the manager, in my opinion.
Ultimately, that's the thing, and that's why the manager is the one to get the sack before the players. It's far easier to sack one manager than to get rid of 4 or 5 players. There's no doubt about that. But look, last season I was quite happy with Anthony. I thought for a debut season, take away the price tag, which we can't in a discussion. That's a huge part of the discussion around transfers. You can't take away that fee. There's no doubt. But I thought as a young player coming into a foreign league, he performed well. Scored some big goals for Manchester United and contributed. Lissandro Martinez, I thought, was a hit. There's no doubt about that. In regards to Anthony's position in the starting 11 this season, I agree. I share all the frustrations when Anthony gets the ball in regards to why is he cutting in on the left? Why is he taking that shot? I agree with all those. I also look at it, though, from the manager's point of view, and not so much the need to make it work in regards to the transfer fee in terms of proving himself right. But I just look at the defensive output Anthony does put in there, and we're talking about balance in midfield. You do need balance in defence. I do think it's not what we want. We want exciting football and sort of on the front foot football. We want to watch football at the right end of the pitch. Ultimately, it's a two-way street. You do need a defender. I do think Anthony does do a lot of good work off the ball, and I do think every manager, even Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, we all look at the attacking football. Everything they do on the training ground is defensive in terms of the shape. And I do think Anthony does play a huge role in Eric Ten Hag's system, but there's no doubt he does need to improve on the ball. You can't hide from that. Andre Onana, I agree. I'm backing him 100%. There'll be no bigger fan of him than me. However, look, there was no bigger fan of David De Gea than me. I thought the treatment of David De Gea last season by Manchester United fans and the media was shocking. I thought it was way over the top. And there's a valid case for moving him on that we needed to improve upon David De Gea. I'm not so sure shying away from that discussion. But in regards to the treatment, saying, okay, we get someone who can play the ball, that's going to improve us 10, 15 points. And Arna's cost us maybe a few points more than David De Gea. Like in regards to, yes, David De Gea wasn't great with the ball. Was a better footballer in goals going to improve us? The answer was yes last season. They said, yes, you get Andre Onana and you get someone who can play out from the back. That'll improve us. Have we improved? Long term, we might. But in the short term, in regards to could that 50 million on Onana, this not to be critical of him, the signing, but could that 50 million have gone to a centre back? Or could that have gone to a Harry Kane transfer? And I just think if someone was right, if someone wanted to move David De Gea on, okay, valid opinion, that's fine. Was it a priority? It wasn't a priority for me. I just think if you wanted to do it, fine. But I thought there were far more pressing issues, whether that be the striker or the centre back or even maybe another midfielder. And at the moment, it looks like Eric Ten Hag might get it wrong in regards to the goalkeeper. If that is the case, that's going to be a costly one for both the player and the manager. Fingers crossed that's not the case. But I've huge concerns over Onana and needs to improve greatly. I'll back him to do so 100%. He's in a tough situation. He does need to improve, and that's the life of a Manchester United goalkeeper. As Gary Neville said, it's probably the heaviest shirt in world football. There's a lot of pressure, so not many people are cut out for it. Even if you go get a better goalkeeper, the better goalkeeper might not be cut out for it as well. It's a very sort of unique position, so it's a tough spot for him. And the only way he's going to do it, or the biggest thing he'll need on his side is the fans. He won't be able to sort of improve if the fans are on his back. So no matter what our opinion is of him, he's going to need support.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In my opinion, United's goalkeeper has not improved from last season.
Yeah.
it hasn't got any better. So we might as well have just kept De Gea in that case. But like you say, it's a long term signing, and we're hoping that we're going to see the benefits of having this type of goalkeeper in the long run. But um, I don't think it's going to be worth it. If you're sacrificing one of the best shot stoppers ever, albeit maybe not anymore, for a goalkeeper who doesn't seem to have
Yeah.
great shot stopping ability. First and foremost, you want your goalkeeper to keep the ball out of the back of the net, and I'm not sure Onana is at the top level when it comes to doing that. So it is a huge concern. So just quickly going to end the show on some of the player ratings, which are going to be very depressing. Um, Onana, I'd say a five. Dallo a five just for scoring that goal. It would have been a lot lower if he didn't. Um, Maguire six. Evans a six. Lindelof a three. Uh, Amrabat a four. McTominay a six. Bruno three. Rashford three. Anthony three. And Rasmus Hoyland, I'll say a six. Um, I'll give ratings to the players who did come on after 63 minutes. Anthony Martial, I thought he was okay.
I
Like
thought all the
some,
subs. I thought all
yeah,
the subs did well.
when he's been coming off the bench lately, I thought he's been doing all right. So, um, there was one incident though where he got the ball with his back to goal on the edge of the 6 yard area, and a confident striker just swivels and shoots, where he played it out and headed straight to a Sheffield United defender, and you're like, oh, what are you doing? But uh, overall, I think he was good, especially on the counter attack. When Sheffield United were throwing bodies forward at the end. So I think he played in Garnacho for that chance, didn't he? So yeah, Martial a six, Garnacho a six, and Christian Eriksen, will give him a six as well. Yeah, he's a very good player to bring off the bench when you're trying to unlock defenses.
Mm.
Obviously Mason Mount and Varane didn't play many minutes, so and Ten Hag, I'll leave it over to you, Tom. It's very hard to give him. I know he won the game, but it wasn't a good performance, and you could pick holes in his team selection. So, what would you give Ten Hag out of 10 for yesterday?
It's hard. Look, I always sort of side with the manager in regards to the players are out on the pitch. The players have to do their job. Um, Ultimately, he won. I think in regards to the first half, you'd be thinking of five. It wasn't working. He did change the game. Well, I think we've been critical of Eric Ten Hag and substitutions in regards to the timing of them in recent times. He was proactive, and I thought all subs changed the game. So overall, in regards to the position he found himself at half time, off the performance and what he did to change the game, look, compared to your ratings, this might be a little bit high. I would end up by giving him a seven in regards to it could have gone a lot wrong if those subs didn't work. So he was brave to make those subs, and look, not good enough for him play as a manager for this specific game. But ultimately, it was good enough. He got 3 points, which is all that counts, and a lot of room a lot of improvement needed. There's no doubt about that. That's not going to sort of go away. That definitely does need to happen, but it could have been a lot worse. I mean, I did win the game. As bad as sort of as depressing as some of this chat has been, we did win. Next week might be a different story, though.
Yeah, because we're looking at it from the point of view of if we're going to progress in this Champions League group, if we're going to beat the likes of Manchester City, we're going to have to prove massively. And that was not a performance that filled me full of confidence. But thanks as always for coming on, Tom. It's been a pleasure.
No, thank you, mate. Anytime, especially after a win. No doubt about that. Always good to chat. United winning, no matter what the performance is like, I will take it. And yeah, I'll just echo your thoughts and my thoughts. I'm sure all the listeners' thoughts as well. In regards to just our thoughts, obviously, with the Charlton family at the moment. A sad day for Manchester United. There is no doubt about that. And but we can be proud and sort of looking back and a pivotal role he did play not only in Manchester United's history but in our lives. Even if we didn't see him play, he has contributed greatly. So yeah, an emotional day, no doubt.
Yeah, we absolutely had to win on the day of passing, and we did so. So yeah, that was important, and we got the 3 points. But hopefully, the next time you're on with me, Tom, we're not only talking about 3 points, we're talking about scintillating football. But it seems a long way off at the moment. But thanks for coming on, mate, and I'll see you again soon.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.